Hello and welcome to another viewing of this program. It's one of the first where I am here conducting an interview with a gentleman who was born and grown in Jamaica, spent many of his youthful days, especially in the church. It's he has a name that many persons mispronounced, especially myself. He goes by the name by which he was born, Mr. Lincoln Jaquett. And in Jamaica, many of us would call him Mr. Jaquett. Well, not so. So, two things we would like to talk about today. One, growing up in Jamaica and the history of the Assembly of the Firstborn Church versus the Gladtidings Church of the Firstborn, to which many persons today may not understand or able to differentiate. And today many of us know some of the churches also as the Gladtidings Church of the Firstborn. Welcome, Mr. Jaquett. It's a blessing having you today.
Thank you very much. Good to be here.
So let's start with your name. Can you explain your name for us and the history of how this name came about?
Well, my name is I pronounce it Jaquett, but different family members pronounce it different ways. But I accept whatever you say. Some people call us Jaquett, some people Jaquett. I pronounce my name right now as Jaquett, and that's the French form of the pronunciation of the name.
So actually, your name goes back to a French history.
Yes, there's a French history behind our name, which I wouldn't be able to go into details right now.
Right.
But it goes back to French and African ancestry. That's where it is.
Tell us about growing up in Jamaica. At the moment we're doing this interview, you are actually here in Canada, to which you lived for many years. What was life like growing up in Jamaica?
Life in Jamaica was, my father being a very senior member of the Church of the Firstborn at the time, the Gladtidings Church of the Firstborn. So I was basically raised up in that part of the church, the Gladtidings section of the entire Firstborn Church.
Oh.
Which today there are three separate branches from the original.
Right.
The Assemblies of the Firstborn, the Gladtidings Church of the Firstborn, and the original Church of the Firstborn Incorporated.
So let's clarify that once more for our listeners who may across Jamaica and the world know these churches. So we have at least three churches that are actually out of one body.
That's correct. The original church was the Church of the Firstborn Incorporated under Major Humphrey. Major Humphrey started the church with 19 policemen. And
Hold on. So the Assembly of the Firstborn Church actually started with 19
policemen.
Wow.
And I can remember the founder, Major D.O. Humphrey, along with other policemen at the time. I think one of them I can remember one other person, Corporal Powell, who I think was also an original member of the church, plus others that I heard about. I wouldn't know them because I was very young. I was born after the church was started.
And we're talking about many years ago, more than about 60 years ago.
Yes, more than 60 years ago.
In Jamaica, where at that time were most of these churches located?
Well, the headquarters was stationed at 17 Law Street in Kingston, and under the overseership of Bishop V.A. Steer.
Yes.
My father, the Reverend L.P. Jaquett, was more like an assistant to him.
Wow.
So both of them carried on the church. And at that time, the church was called Church of the Firstborn.
Right.
So Major D.O. Humphrey at the time worked along with Dr. F.S. Bent.
Wow.
At that time, the church was technically one church, one corporation, before they have a technical separation.
Right. So today we have the Assembly of the Firstborn. Some persons say the Assemblies of the Firstborn. Sometimes I am not sure the correct, if it's Assemblies or Assembly of the Firstborn. And we also have the Gladtidings Church of the Firstborn.
Okay, let me differentiate. The Assemblies of the Firstborn separated sometime in the 50s, I understand.
Okay.
From the Church of the Firstborn under the leadership of Pastor, the name of the pastor is Pastor, I forget the name now.
Okay, we'll
Just
catch up
let
on
me.
that one.
Yes, Pastor Bryson.
Okay.
I heard of him. I had pictures of him, along with other ministers of the Assembly of the Firstborn. At the but those pictures I don't have today.
Okay.
But they were available then.
We'll get them in time and for the posting.
Then the Gladtidings of the Church of the Firstborn. They got incorporated separated from the technically, and I say
Okay.
technically because they still work together somehow.
Right.
From the Church of the Firstborn, somewhere in the 60s, I don't remember the dates.
Right.
Under Pastor V.A. Steers. So,
Pastor V.A. Steer, that means there's a church in Connecticut that I preach at, and Evangelist Steer, I believe that would be the daughter of that very pastor.
yes, that would be. I'm not sure which daughter it is.
Right, but she's
I
my
know it's-
good friend.
I know it's one of them.
I preach there with Bishop. He's now the Bishop of the Assemblies of the Firstborn, Reverend Ralston Coke, who is now the Bishop for the Assemblies of the Firstborn.
Yes. Prior to him, I remember the former bishop, the late bishop who passed away a few years ago.
So now we've mentioned the Assemblies of the Firstborn, which presently I believe the present oversighting bishop is Reverend Ralston Coke, assisted by Bishop Codlin, who took over, I believe, from Bishop Clark. And I forgot the name of the pastor right now in St. Toulis. I've met all those men of God before. Let's move over to the Church of the Firstborn, Gladtidings. How did that came about?
Well, prior to the inception of the Gladtidings Church of the Firstborn, the church was called Church of the Firstborn. And they had two separate administrations.
Right.
Both administrations worked together but never overlapped in terms of administrations. Under the current Gladtiding Church of the Firstborn, the presiding bishop at the time was Bishop V.A. Steer.
Right.
And he worked together along with Dr. F.S. Bent, Dr. Frank Bent, and they worked together as one church for many years. Sometime later on in the middle 60s, I think, they found it necessary to technically separate, but not by fellowship. Both churches still continues to fellowship and work together as one church.
Yes.
Up to the time when I left Jamaica in 1982, they somehow still work together, and so the Gladtidings Church of the Firstborn that came about in the middle 60s.
Right.
And the present the bishop at the time was Dr. Bishop V.A. Steers. Later on, he was succeeded by Pastor Mitchell.
Wonderful man.
Pastor Mitchell.
I love to
which
hear him sing.
lots of you might know Pastor Mitchell
I
is.
once heard him sing the song. The song was
The song left you know.
yeah, it's from sinking sand, Christ lifted
Oh, you remember
me
him by that particular
with
song.
tender
Yes.
hands. I love to hear him
Yeah,
sing
a
that
song
song.
with a name.
Yes.
A really wonderful man. He is rather a really wonderful man. He's now like the senior father of the Gladtidings Church of the Firstborn.
Right, right. And I've spent a lot of years in Pier 3 where I
Yes.
assisted Pastor McCarthy.
That's right.
I was once his Bible study teacher for almost 3 years at the Pier 3 Church, even lived on that property.
And that's Pastor McCarthy from Sanguinetti, I
Yes,
think?
Pastor
Yes.
McCarthy is not far from 100 years old and he's still
That's
doing
right.
very
Wonderful
well.
man of God.
So as we close off on talking about the Church of the Firstborn, so we can conclude that, you know, they're all from one branch.
Yes, the whole idea of the firstborn
Right.
came out of what we call the original Church of the Firstborn.
Incorporated.
That's correct.
Which actually was started by Major Humphrey
Major D.O. Humphrey,
with 19 police
19
officers.
policemen.
Jamaica, you hear?
Yes.
Jamaica had some policemen that were very active, not just in their job in security, but also in ministry where the church is concerned. And today, there are still many police officers that are not just police officers,
That's
they are
right.
ministers of the gospel of the Lord Jesus Christ. So, before we go though, Brother Lincoln, this is a conversation that would continue another time. Let's talk about music briefly.
Okay.
You were a very active man growing up in Jamaica.
That's
in
correct.
the church where music is concerned. And I got to understand also that you have played with some of Jamaica's most outstanding performing artists in the music business.
Yes.
And even here in Canada now, you are
That's
a
right.
well-known and great player, guitar. A little birdie told me that you had experience growing up as children playing and singing with Beres Hammond.
Well, yes, Beres and I grew up together, and he was singing from he was just a little boy.
Yes.
We used to have little school concerts, and we used to put some benches together, put him up on stage, and let him sing.
Wow.
And he started, he developed from there. He never looked back.
Yes.
And
yes.
to where he is today, he's one of Jamaica's reggae legend.
He
and,
is. He
never
is one of the
never forget
greatest.
his friends, you know.
Yes, he's one of
We're still
Jamaica's
friends just
greatest.
like back home.
And with that said, to our young people out there today, especially for those who are watching this interview, would you just tell them the importance of music, especially, you know, in a time in such as this in which we live?
Well, I can tell you, music soothes the soul. When you can play an instrument, when you're worried or you're down and out, if you can play a tune on your instrument, it really calms you, really soothes you down. Music does something for the soul.
Right.
It does something for the soul, and it's very important for you you're never too old to learn. You can start at any age,
Right.
Anywhere from 3 years old to 99 years old. You're never too old. And it's not as hard as most people think. And I can make myself available for anybody right across the world.
Right.
Using the internet at this time to assist, especially those in the church, which is one of my goals. To help
Right.
people to develop their skills in playing an instrument so they can be a part of their church's praise and worship.
And I want to use this opportunity to speak to those who are in Canada, especially the Brampton, or I should say the Peel area, those who are in Peel and would like to have a well-rounded, mature, experienced musician that is able to teach their children to contact you, because you do offer some of the best personal classes available for children as small as 2, 3, 4, 5, and even 50 to 100 years old.
Yes, you can contact me at linksmusic.com. Links Music 2, LINX, the word music and the digit 2 at hotmail.com. You can contact me that way, and we can take it from there.
Indeed. Brother Lincoln Jaquett, thank you very much. And this is just part 1. We are looking forward to part 2, where we'll talk about marriage, the family, life in Canada, because you have a very beautiful wife and you've been both married for over 40 years.
40 years this month.
Yes.
August 13th. 40
Congratulations.
years.
Congratulations to you both. And I tell you, Jamaica, Canada, and the world, this is the gentleman to contact for your musical lessons, especially in guitar and piano for your children, adult, or even your school students or church students. And not just that, if you're having a wedding, a anniversary, a church service, or any function that you need a well-rounded player, right here, never forget to contact Mr. Lincoln Jaquett. On the screen, the information is being displayed right now. Thank you. Until we meet again for part 2. This is Orlando White along with
Lincoln Jaquett.
God bless.